Hey, what is up, everybody? Welcome to the TCC Online Campus. My name is Ben, and let me just say thank you for taking a little bit of time out of your day to spend it with us next to the fire. Now, you might be asking, hey, Ben, why are you next to a fire? Well, maybe you know, maybe you don't know. We're kicking off the Lighted It Off event with a night of worship outside this Sunday. Starting at 5, we're gonna have hot dogs, campfires everywhere, cornhole, and at 6, we're gonna be doing a night of worship outside, which is going to be amazing and awesome. I am super excited. I hope to see you there. Also, campfires, you know what they make me think of? Mine's kind of dying right now. Campfires, what they make me think of? Summer camps. Here at TCC, we have a bunch of summer camps for students. If you are a student or you know somebody who is a student who would like to attend, jump into the chat, connect with a chat host, and we will get you guys connected. So with that said, let's jump into some music.
What I see, do you see what I see? I see lightning, I hear thunder, something stirring 6 feet under. Dead things come 'cause the God I serve knows only how to triumph. My God will never fail. Oh, my God will never fail. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Whoa. There's power in the mighty name of Jesus. Every war he wages, he will win. Oh, I'm not backing down from any giant. I know how this story ends. Oh, yes, I know how this story ends. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. Say it again. Oh, I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. I'm gonna see a victory. I'm gonna see a victory. For the battle belongs to you, Lord. You take what the enemy meant for evil, and you turn it for good. You turn it for good.
what is happening within Square One community. Remember, Square One is all about helping people go from surviving to thriving. It's about, well, not just giving a handout, but reaching our hand out and helping people up. Just recently, we had a benefit concert where Square One Community and ADA joined together. It was an awesome night of music. And well, between the ticket sales there and the faithfulness of a great business partner, Miller Home, we were able to order 27 more mattresses, well, to give the gift of sleep. It's one of the things we're discovering more and more as we talk with people, is the number of people that don't even have a mattress to sleep on. In fact, just today, the Salvation Army sent someone who just had a really significant need, and we as House to Home Du Bois were able to give that person an entire bedding set. You see, these are the stories that are happening all the time. And I just wanted to let you know, like, you can be part of it. Maybe you're looking around your house and you have some just gently used furniture that, well, you just want to give away. And just know that our House to Home stores in Ridgeway and Du Bois, that's how we help bless people, by your generosity of giving away gently used furniture. Maybe for you, you want to give the gift to sleep, and you want to make a gift so that we can buy more mattresses so we can help more people. But here's what I love. I love the commitment that we as a church, a collective of people, have to really help put love into action, to meet people's needs and say, hey, let's go on a journey together. Well, thanks for your generosity. We do what we do because you've continued to give faithfully. If you haven't taken that step in yet, I just want to encourage you. Live a life. Be a percentage giver. Determine a percentage that you're going to give to God, and well, start giving. And you can do that safe and secure online. So easy. It's what my wife and I do. And we just know the 1st and 15th of every month, our best goes to God in an act of worship. And we celebrate knowing that God's going to use that, well, to help more people. Well, we're in this 4th part of this series, Mosaic, Fractured, Not Forgotten. And what's the first thing or the first couple things that spin around in your mind, maybe get your heart racing when you read this 5-letter word, trust? Maybe, just maybe, as you're thinking about this word trust, maybe there's a question, or maybe it's in form of a statement. Doesn't matter if it's a statement or a question, but maybe there's something around, well, this question: who has broken your trust? Because I think most people, the issue they have with trust is around, well, people that have broken, fractured trust with them. Maybe for you, you've had a parent broke trust with you, maybe at an early age or your teenage years, or maybe it was up into your adult years when a family secret finally became not secret, and all of a sudden you realize dad, or mom and dad, and it just completely fractured, broke your trust with them. Maybe for you, broken trust is connected to a spouse. You confronted your spouse and she promised that there was no one else, and then you discovered there is a no one else. And maybe for you, it's a teacher that broke trust with you, a teacher, someone that you trusted in, someone that you leaned into, that you could count on. In 3rd and 4th grade, I had the same teacher, Mr. Penhollow. It's just one of those freak things that he moved up a grade as I moved up a grade, and I just happened to be in his class both of those years. And Mr. Penhollow well, just the world's best teacher. I thrived within his classroom. He believed in me, he believed in all the kids, and he really created such an incredible experience to learn. Well, then I got to 5th grade, and I got a teacher named Mrs. Winks. Now, Mrs. Winks was really popular around our town, our community. I mean, she had gotten awards, she had gotten prizes, she had gotten a ton of recognition because she cared for special needs kids. So she was really popular, a really big deal, but she didn't like me. For whatever reason, she had it out for me. I couldn't do anything right. I couldn't answer the right way. I couldn't walk from one class to another the right way. I mean, my parents tried everything. They had parent-teacher conferences with her. They got the principal involved just to say, hey, we want to work this out because Chris had thrived in 3rd and 4th grade, but not 5th grade. Well, all 5th grade was just a struggle. And the next year, 6th grade, it comes out into the papers that, well, she was arrested for, well, all the money that she was receiving to care for these special needs kids, she wasn't using to care for them. She was pocketing all of it. And I think about that story. I mean, 3rd and 4th grade, I had so much trust in teachers because of Mr. Penhollow. And then all of a sudden, one teacher started to just fracture it. And if you're a teacher, you know, you can be the best teacher, and one teacher breaks trust, right? It starts to impact all teachers. In fact, I understand that personally. I have this title, pastor, and guess what? For some of you, you had a pastor that completely fractured your trust with him, with her. And now you apply that to me, or maybe to your campus pastor, or another spiritual leader connected to you. You want to trust, but that one person, that one story, you know their name, you see them, right? Fractured trust. Is it a friend? Fractured trust. Is it a coach that fractured trust? Is it, I don't know, a boss? You see, all of this gets connected to your relationship with God. Now, one of my personal favorite titles for God that you find in the Bible is Heavenly Father. And for me personally, I have such an amazing relationship with my dad growing up. I mean, my dad was my friend, my mentor. He was a great dad, not perfect dad, but his desire to follow God and to pour himself into his kids and to love his wife. I mean, I had such a great dad. For some of you, I know you don't. In fact, for some of you, there's a lot of broken trust with your dad. So when you see a title, Heavenly Father, this creates so much angst within you because of the fractured nature of trust. You see, when we think about trust and we ask the question, who has broken your trust? Our broken trust relationships down here on this earth impacts our trust with God, doesn't it? I'm not saying it should. I'm not saying that's right. I'm just talking about the reality of it. In fact, why we spend so much time trying to help encourage you, trying to help give you tools to heal broken, fractured relationships is we get that the more we heal from hurt, the more we heal from broken trust, the more we heal from betrayal, the more we heal from, the more we grow in our relationship with God. And the more we understand what Jesus did on the cross for us, the more that will help us move to forgive, to reconcile, to close the gap. Well, let me ask you another question, a question that you might not like as much. And the other question is, have you broken trust? And the answer to that question is yes. But there's something within us human beings, and you're a human being and I'm a human being, where we want to elevate everyone else's, brokenness and not look at our own. But the reality is you and I, we all break trust with each other. Hopefully not intentionally, but sometimes intentionally. And that's why the more we work on healing ourselves, because hurting people hurt people, and the more we go through that healing process, the spiritual healing, counseling, which I'm a huge proponent of, wise people around you to help you heal, leaning into what God talks about with forgiveness and reconciliation, the more we do that, well, the more we start to heal from the broken trust in our lives. And all of that gets connected to where we kind of ended in part 3. It was this insight, understanding what I don't understand. That in our spiritual journey, there's just things that we're not going to understand. It's just real. God's going to work in ways we don't understand. God's timeline is going to roll out in front of us in ways we don't understand. God's direction we're not going to understand. God's insight we might not understand. There's a whole list of things on our spiritual journey, and we have to come to a place where we're just going to understand that we're just not going to understand. And the foundation of this statement is a choice. To choose to trust. Are you going to choose to trust when you don't understand, when it doesn't make sense, when the timeline looks different than you had anticipated, when God doesn't answer in the way that you wanted him or needed him to answer? Are you going to choose to trust? And that's why trust is such a big deal. Well, in part 3, we kind of ended with the first of two banquets. Queen Esther came away with her life. She wasn't sure if the king was going to allow her to come into his court unannounced, but she's still living. Then the king asked her, hey, what do you want? I'll give you anything. Up to half my kingdom is yours, Queen Esther. Again, it blew her mind. Again, she was just thinking, am I going to live in the next 30 seconds? Now the king's offering up to half his kingdom. And Esther says, I'm going to have a banquet for you and Haman. So Haman, the evil, vile Haman, gets invited to this banquet with the king and the queen. Well, that's where we left off in part 3. Well, everyone leaves from the banquet and the king goes to bed. It's night, and we're told that night the king could not sleep. So he ordered the book of the Chronicles, the record of his reign, to be brought in and read to him. And as they were reading to him his history, and hearing about it, all of a sudden he comes to this part of the story about a guy named Mordecai who was sitting by the gate, who overheard, two of these high-ranking officials, Bigthana and Teresh, who were plotting to assassinate the king, King Xerxes, him. And all of a sudden the king's hearing this story about Mordecai that saved his life, and he asks the question, he goes, hey, what honor and recognition has Mordecai received for this amazing heroic act that he saved my life? What did we do for him? And guess what the attendant said? Nothing. King, we did nothing. He saved your life, but we did nothing. And then the king was thinking, he's like, we got to do something. We got to do something. And so he did what was common kind of in that Persian culture, was to surround yourself with advisors. And so he goes, who's out in the court? And they go, Haman, because he had just entered into the court. And Haman had just entered into the outer court. Why? Because he had to speak to the king, because he realized, I've built a 75-foot impaling pole, and I'm going to kill a guy named Mordecai. I probably should let the king know. So Haman was there just to say, by the way, king, I know the clock's ticking. We're going to kill all the Jews. I'm just going to kill one early. Got the pole set up. It's ready. I just want to let you know, because this is your kingdom. This is your city. I just want to make sure it's a really big pole, but I'm going to kill Mordecai today. So he was there just to let him know. And the king goes, Haman's in my outer court. Well, bring him on in. So he brings Haman in. And the king asks, and he doesn't reveal who. He just says, hey, Haman, what should be done for the man the king delights to honor? And Haman thinks to himself in that quick moment. He goes, who is there that the king would rather honor than me out of everyone? Remember, the king had already elevated Haman to number 2 in command above all the other nobles. And Haman, we looked at in part 3. He came home to his wife and his advisors, and he bragged about how great he was. He bragged about all of his wealth. He bragged about the number of sons. He bragged the fact that the king moved him above all the other nobles. He even bragged that the queen invited him not to one, but two banquets. I mean, he was pretty full of himself. So he's thinking, like, hey, this has to be about me. And then his mind went to, well, I know what I want. So I'm going to tell the king what he should do, quote unquote, for this man to honor. And he goes, hey, king, for the man the king delights to honor, have them bring a royal robe the king has worn, a personal possession, and a horse the king has ridden, a personal possession, one with a royal crest placed on his head. I mean, another personal possession. Then Haman elevates it even another step. He goes, hey, king, get one of your noble princes. Put this man up on a horse and have them parade around all the city of Susa, proclaiming, this is what is done for the man, the king, delights to honor. Haman has to have a smile on his face. It's like, man, this is going to be a good day for me. Like, this is the right day to show up to the king's court. I get to put Mordecai on a 75-foot pole, and I get paraded in front of the whole kingdom. And the king goes, hey, Haman, great idea. Great idea. And again, Haman his smile has to get even bigger. And then the king goes, go get Mordecai. And everything shifts. What? Go get Mordecai. This is the man I want to honor. Remember, Haman had showed up just to inform the king he was going to put Mordecai on a pole. And all of a sudden, moments later, he finds himself putting Mordecai up on a horse, leading him around all of the city, Susa, proclaiming honor and praise on the guy he was about ready to kill. We're told in the text that when he got done leading him around the city, Mordecai went back to one of the gates of, the king's palace just to sit there and wait there. We actually see Mordecai sitting there multiple times. In fact, that's where he uncovered the assassination attempt. And Haman goes back home to his advisors and his wife. And when he walks in, his wife, his advisors, said to him, since Mordecai, before whom your downfall has started, is of Jewish origin, you cannot stand against him. You will surely come to ruin. Now, what are they saying? Well, remember, it was his advisors and Zeresh, his wife, that advised him to set up a 75-foot pole and kill Mordecai in the first place. That was their plan. That was their wisdom. That was their insight that, Haman followed. Now they're looking at him and saying, too bad you've created the mess, which is fascinating because it was their idea in the first place, but now they're pointing all the fingers at him saying, hey, Haman, hey, you created this mess. Well, good luck. We're out of it. Think about this. Xerxes had his advisors. I mean, he got him in all sorts of messes. I mean, it was how Queen Vashti got banished and how Esther got forced into it. In fact, Xerxes listened to Haman, and that got all the Jews on a ticking time clock for mass suicide. It was Haman who listened to his advisors and wife and continued to create more and more and more of a mess. But what did Esther do? Part 3, we looked at it. She personally went on a 3-day fast, and her attendants, and Mordecai, and all the Jews in the city. 3 days. Fasting, remember, is about going without. And what we know in the Jewish culture and the Jewish faith is that, with fasting comes praying. Those two are all interconnected together. And that praying isn't just about asking. You should ask God for things, but prayer is so much more than that. It's not just about telling God things, and feel free to tell God things. I have. But the power of prayer isn't in the asking and the telling. The power of prayer is in the listening. It's in the quiet. It's in the still. And when you fast and pray, when you go without and listen, that is about God preparing you for fill in the blank. Maybe it's God preparing you for, well, that next move, that next day. Maybe it's God preparing you with courage. Maybe it's God preparing you with peace. Maybe it's God preparing you with confidence. Maybe it's God preparing you to wait. Maybe it's God preparing you for a very difficult journey, but he's promised to be with you. For Esther, who was she listening to? God. For 3 days, she listened. For 3 days, she went without. For 3 days, God was preparing her for such a time as this. You see, who you listen to will always, 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 always direct what you do. That's why who you surround yourself with is so critical. Who are the wise people surrounding you? Who are the people that you're leaning into? And are you leaning into God for wisdom and direction? That's why understanding the power of prayer is in the listening, not the asking and telling, even though you should ask and you should tell. But it's in the listening that's so critical. Are you listening to God's word, the Bible, the scripture? God's wisdom is throughout the Bible. You see, the Apostle Paul writing this incredible spiritual leadership manual to a younger leader. His name was Timothy, and he was part of the leadership of a very large, growing, influential church in the ancient city of Ephesus. Paul writes these words. He goes, "For the time will come when people will not put up with sound doctrine." Now, the critical word here is doctrine. Notice that Paul doesn't write that people will not put up with sound opinion or sound preference or sound perspective. He's anchoring it to doctrine, understanding God's design, God's direction, God's will. It's understanding what we would now call the Bible in the Old and New Testament put together. And he says, hey, there's going to be a time where people won't listen to sound doctrine. That was true some 2,000 years ago, and guess what? It's true to this day. Recently, my wife and I, we were on our date day. We tried to the best we can. We're not perfect, but it's our commitment. On Fridays is kind of the day we've kind of blacked out for just spending time with each other. We've done this for several decades now. And so recently, we're on a date, and it was actually a nice spring Pennsylvania day finally. And so we had made our way to a pretty large antique store, and we're just walking around looking at things. In fact, we found a croquet set that we both had the same type of croquet set setting up, and we bought it. It's awesome. But as we were walking around, we kind of got separated. And I was literally standing there texting her going, where are you? How did we get separated? I mean, this is a large store. And so I'm standing there texting her, trying to help her find me or me to find her. And then all of a sudden from another room, I hear this lady's voice. And she starts talking about church. I kind of perk up to listen to what she has to say. And so I'm kind of listening, and all of a sudden she kind of is talking about church and Sunday church and all of this, and all of a sudden she starts to go on this rant about kids and what they wear. And she just starts ripping apart these kids coming to church and how they're dressed. And then she goes, and some of them are even wearing flip-flops, and I can't believe that they would wear flip-flops to church. And she is just ranting, not stopping. I had a whole list of thoughts going in my spirit. I mean, the first one was, man, I hope anyone who's not a Jesus follower, I hope they're not in here. Because people like that make people want to run from church. My next thought was, you can't wear flip-flops in church. So I Googled, can you wear flip-flops in church? I mean, why not? What does the interweb has to say about wearing flip-flops in church? And so I just, well, can you wear them? And it was fascinating. I started reading article after article. This one article, this person starts breaking down the types of flip-flops that are appropriate and not appropriate to wear in church. I'm like, oh, wow, there's actually someone giving an opinion around different types of flip-flops. In fact, this person said the gladiator style of sandals aren't allowed, the ones that I guess the straps going up. And I just thought it was interesting that, well, this person chose to use the word gladiator attached to flip-flops when the gladiators killed Christians, but that's neither here nor there. But there was a whole list of, I guess, flip-flops you can and can't wear. I'm like, well, that's fascinating. Then I went to the next iteration. I just added the word verse to this Google search, because there must be a chapter and verse, since this lady in the store said you can't, and this, well, people on the internet gives me a list of different flip-flops I can and can't wear. It must be sound doctrine, not opinion or preference, sound doctrine. Guess what I couldn't find? I couldn't find chapter and verse. Some of you are already ahead of me on this. What did Jesus wear? Granted, I don't think Jesus called them flip-flops, but what were they? Flip-flops, sandals. That's what Jesus wore. That was what people wore if they could afford them. But the next question is the real question. Do you think Jesus really even cares what people wear? Come on now. I'm not talking about sound opinion or sound preference or sound perspective. I'm talking about sound doctrine. Do you think Jesus cares what people wear? Did he say to the leper, sorry, you can't come to me because your clothing really smells and really tattered? No. Do you think he said to the blind man, sorry, I can't heal you right now. You got to get dressed in your Sunday best? He said, come. Do you think Jesus ever turned people away based on what they wore? It's why I encourage people all the time. I will wrestle through Scripture with anyone. But if we're talking about opinion and preference, well, let's just call it what it is, opinion and preference. But don't say it's doctrine when it's really preference. Don't say it's doctrine when it's really opinion. Don't say it's doctrine when it's just what you feel. And that's what Paul was getting at. It's like, hey, there's going to be this time where people aren't going to put up with sound doctrine. He goes on and he goes, instead, to suit their own desires, they will gather around them a great number of teachers to say what their itching ears want to hear. Guess what? You can always find someone to agree with your opinion. You'll find those people. You will always find people to agree with your preferences and your perspective. You can always find those people. But the question still comes back to, or the reality still comes back to, who you listen to will direct what you do. Are you listening to God's word? Do you know what it says? We live in one of the greatest days and age where you can find a verse like this. Are you listening to God's still small voice? And remember, God speaks through other people. And so when you start thinking through the people you're listening to, you must ask this question. Is the who you're listening to God? Or is it their opinion, their preference? You see, one of the things I always say to someone, when I think they're treading into opinion land or preference land, I'll just simply say chapter and verse. Chapter and verse. Let's wrestle through it. I'm great wrestling through and being challenged. I know the longer I live, the more I read God's words, like I grow and I get stretched and it helps my perspective, but I'm wrestling through his words. I'm just saying 99.9% of the times I say to someone, well, chapter and verse, where do you find that? they don't know. You want people surrounding you, not scholars, but people who hunger and thirst to know what God has to say in his word. People that have an active prayer life who understands the power of prayer is listening. So, who are you listening to? Will direct what you do. So, banquet 1 is done. Haman has gone home and he's filled with shame. But there's banquet number 2. Now I wonder, why was there going to be 2 banquets? Like in Esther's fasting and praying, like was that part of it? Or was her fasting and praying as God was preparing her, it was just all about courage? I think it was just God giving her the courage and a peace to confront the king. I don't think she had some deluxe plan. I think she walked in, realized she was going to live. The king wasn't going to kill her immediately. And all of a sudden she goes, a banquet. And all of a sudden the king was like, fine. And she's like, a second banquet. Just gave her a little bit more time to try to figure this out. So the king's eunuchs come and get Haman from his house as he's hiding out in shame, brings him to the second banquet. And Queen Esther comes up to the king. The king had said to her, hey, what do you want? I've told you up to half my kingdom I'll give to you. And she goes, if I found favor with you, your majesty, and if it pleases you, grant me my life. This is my petition. She's making it personal. She goes, and spare my people. And the king would have to be like, what? But there's a confidence with Esther. There's a courage within Esther. There's a steadiness within Esther that was just beyond her. From listening and leaning in and God preparing her for such a time as this. And the queen says to the king, for I and my people have been sold to be destroyed, killed, and annihilated. If we had merely been sold as male and female slaves, I would have kept quiet because no such distress would justify disturbing the king. I mean, Queen Esther knew her history. Jewish people, slaves in Egypt. The northern kingdom gets taken off by the Syrians, slaves, exile. The Babylonians took the southern kingdom off of slaves, exile. It was the Persians that will let them go. So she goes, if it's just the slavery thing, we've been through this for hundreds and hundreds of years. If it was only that, okay, fine. But it's more than that. It's more than that. And the king asked Queen Esther, who is he? Where is he? The man who has dared to do such a thing. And I think Esther paused. Again, all of that preparing that God had breathed into her, the courage that God had breathed into her, the steadiness, the peace, all of that preparing came to this pinnacle moment. The king's like, I want to know a name. And Esther's there like, I know I'm important, I'm a queen, but I don't know what happened to the last queen. And Haman's number 2 in command above all the other nobles. I mean, this is a critical moment. And I think she took a deep breath, and with all of the courage that comes from God, she goes, an adversary, an enemy, this vile Haman. And Haman was terrified before the king and queen. And the king got up in a rage, left his wine, went out into the palace garden. And Haman, realizing the king had already decided his fate, he stayed behind to beg Esther for his life. And just as the king returned from the palace garden to the banquet hall, Haman was falling on the couch where Esther was reclining, and the king yelled, screamed, will he even molest the queen while she is with me in the house? And as soon as the word left the king's mouth, the edict had been made. They covered Haman's face as a symbolism that his life was over, and the king said, impale him on it. The pole that Haman had erected for Mordecai, the king was going to use to kill Haman. So they impaled Haman on the pole he had set up for Mordecai. Then the king's fury subsided. So, what's the moral of the story? right? Right? What's the moral at this pinnacle moment of the story? What's the moral of the story? Well, maybe, just maybe the moral of the story is, do you have an enemy? Well, ask God to impale him publicly. Okay, that's not the moral of the story. This is the insight that I hope you lean into. You see, there's this tension. You have it, I have it, between fear and faith. It's real. We're living in a time filled with fear. We are. Fear of the economy, fear of finances, fear of COVID, fear of government, fear of wars around the world. I mean, think about the number of fear components that are just swirling within you right now. Fear is powerful. But you can't face fear and faith. I'm not saying fear goes away. All I'm saying is you can't face fear and face faith. Those are opposites. And the more you turn to God in faith, again, the fear is still kind of out there. We know it's real. But the more we face God with faith, trusting that God is who he says he is and will do everything he says he's going to do, guess what? Fear starts to fade into the back. Which one are you facing? Do you have faith that God is who he says he is? Do you have faith in God's promises that he is with you and for you? Do you have faith to follow God? You see, there's this word in the Bible that sometimes gets translated faith. Sometimes it gets translated belief. And sometimes it gets translated, trust. And at the end of the day, you have to choose to trust or not. You can blame a whole list of people that have broken trust with you, and you can live a life that says, I don't trust because. But here's the thing. I've broken trust with people. You've broken trust with people. And people will break trust with you. Why? Because we're broken people. But God has never broken trust. Because God is who he says he is. And he will do everything he says he's going to do. Choose to trust the God who is for you and with you. Over this series, we've given different opportunities around these mosaic tiles. We've given the opportunity to write your initials in them and drop them in a basket. And in part 5, we're going to do something really cool with them, which you'll just have to wait until part 5 for. We've also encouraged you to take one and put it somewhere where it will remind you that it's okay to understand you don't understand, but God is with you and for you. And if you haven't written your initials on or taken one, we just want to give you a moment to do that right now. Or maybe for you, you need to write your initials again, or maybe you need to take another one again. And we just want to create a space for you to make that commitment with God, to say, God, I trust you. Let me pray. Lord, I just ask. That even in our broken, fractured relationships where trust has been broken with us, the Lord will go on an active journey to, heal. Heal those relationships and heal what's been broken within us. Lord, I also just pray that we just choose to trust you because you haven't let us down. It might feel like that, but your promises, you are a good, good Father who cares deeply for us. So may we choose to trust you. In your name I pray. Amen.
You make it easy to love you. You are good and you are kind. You bring joy into my life. You make it easy to trust you. never left my side. You've been faithful every time. All I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere, follow you anywhere. Jesus, you came to my rescue, took my place upon that cross. You redeemed what I had lost. My whole world revolving around you. You're the center of my life. You're the treasure, you're the prize. Yeah, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere. I'll follow you anywhere. Whoa. I'll follow you anywhere. Whoa. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. Wherever you lead me, whatever it costs me, all I want is you, Jesus. All I want is you. You are the refuge I run to. You are the fire that leads me through the night. I'll follow you anywhere. There's a million reasons to trust you, nothing to fear, for you are by my side. I'll follow you anywhere, follow you anywhere. Whoa. I'll follow you anywhere. Whoa. I'll follow you anywhere.
That is our service for today. I hope that you enjoyed the message. Remember, we have Discover TCC happening at our physical locations. If you want to get connected with that, we will put a link that you can follow to get connected, just discover more about TCC. I hope to see you at the Lighted Up Night of Worship. I hope the fires are better than mine. It is almost gone. So maybe I should go to the Night of Worship to learn how to make a campfire. I hope to see you there.